one here on this Monday continues. We head out to Austin, Texas, and catching up with our good friend Roger Wallace. Roger, this is a Texas women's basketball team. We have talked about them all season long. We knew that they were on the cusp of doing something very special. They get it done with a big win over South Carolina, and the way they got it done to me is probably more impressive, just the way they were able to dominate, obviously, a perennial power.
Yeah, and I said you could argue that that's the best win of the season in women's college basketball, and I don't think it would be hard to back that argument up with what they did, how they did it, where they did it. And I didn't see it coming because I did the game at Alabama on Sunday, their last regular season game, and it was a real struggle, a real offensive struggle, and they didn't feel great about anything other than winning. And then they go to Greenville and they just ran roughshod over the tournament. Now, Ole Miss gave them a little problem on Saturday night. They cut a big deficit to 2, but then Texas put them away in the fourth quarter. And then, to me, the most telling part of that game Sunday is the shots of Dawn Staley on the sideline. And you could almost read her mind like, well, I know what other teams feel like when we get rolling. Because, she wasn't going crazy. It was almost like, they're really good, and we've been on the right side of this for a long time, and we got on the wrong side of it today.
Yeah, Roger, and I saw a stat that just blew my mind. The fact that South Carolina is 20-1 under Coach Dawn Staley in the SEC tournament games in Greenville, which is just insane, going up to this. And so I want to get from your perspective for Texas, also only being in the SEC for 2 years now. Like, what are the bragging rights at right now?
Well, the problem is they can turn around and see them again real quickly like they did last year in the Final Four, so they might be short-lived. But this one's special, I'm sure, for Vic Schaefer because it's a trophy, and he did it in their backyard against South Carolina. 5 straight years now, Texas has either won an outright conference title, a share of a conference title, or a conference tournament. That's in the Big 12, and that's in the SEC. So pretty amazing run they're on. But, yeah, this was a big one. And maybe the more important thing that it did, it might get them to Fort Worth in the regional rather than Sacramento. Now, you might get differing opinions on that, saying South Carolina did enough, winning the regular season, only 1 loss, winning by 2 games. They deserve to be in Fort Worth, not shipped out there. We'll see next Sunday. But it's a trophy, and that's the most important thing is they're SEC tournament champs, and they were going to be a 1 seed regardless. So it's just the fact that they did it, and now they've beaten them 2 out of 3 times this year.
Roger, we've been talking all season about how poor the defense is for Sean Miller and this men's basketball team.
That was a hard turn.
Well, no. I'll loop it back to the women's team because I felt like this was an absolute dominating performance on the defensive end. Only 1 starter, and I think it was Joyce Edwards, scored more than 10 points for South Carolina. Just how impressed were you with Vic Schaefer's defense?
Yeah, I mean, that's their calling card. So compared to the men, where Sean Miller basically says, hopefully we can survive with our defense and outscore teams. But, yeah, that's what they do. Rory Harmon, if not the best on-ball defender in the country, she's on a short list. And then the way they help and just the way they play so hard. And, you hear that phrase buy-in, and you kind of laugh at it. And then you watch some teams play defense compared to watching other teams. You say, okay, they all have great athletes. So what is it about them that makes it special? You're looking at Justice Carlton. She's been a real X factor for Texas, and she was outstanding in that first quarter when they pulled out to the big lead. But, yeah, the defense has been Vic Schaefer's calling card since he, was an assistant coach for Gary Blair, and he was kind of the defensive coordinator back at Arkansas and Texas A&M, and now running his own program. That's where they start, and there's no negotiating on that end of the floor. So not a surprise other than the fact that they were so dominant against such a good team.
Absolutely. About a month ago, Vic Schaefer was saying his team had no heart after a loss to Vanderbilt. He was a little happier after Sunday's game.
To do what they did today and the way they did it in this environment, in this arena against that team is truly it's impressive for me to sit there and just watch it. That first half, to see them come out the way they did in the opening quarter, they were laser focused. They're so tough today. I wrote on the board today would be about toughness. It would be about resilience, and that they needed to bring an edge. And I thought we brought the edge.
Yeah, I think we saw again on that game Sunday that Madison Booker has just been such an elite piece to this team. What does she mean, especially now going into postseason? How is she going to be the key player for this Texas team?
Well, she can put a team on her back at both ends of the floor, and we saw on different occasions where she just has to go get a basket, but she's not looking to do that. But it's more than that. It's just kind of an attitude, and I think she learned a lot of it from Rory Harmon about the most important thing is the team winning, and she does it in so many kind of unique ways. She's not a big three-point shooter. She's a master of the mid-range. Kevin Durant's her hero, and she plays a lot like Kevin Durant. But she's got an edge about her. She's been battle-tested. I mean, a Final Four last year, an Elite Eight her freshman season, all the conference championships, tournament titles. So, I mean, this team has got a lot of scars. And then they got a lot of younger players. As Vic Schaefer said, sometimes what you don't know can't hurt you. And I think of an Aaliyah Crump, the freshman who came in, hit some big buckets yesterday. Brianna Preston, a sophomore point guard, got teed up, got a little over-emotional after a bucket in the second half. So the mixture's really good. The problem with this team is that sometimes the inside presence isn't there, and that can let them down, and the shooting can let them down. It did not happen, either of those things, in the conference tournament, and that's why they're so dangerous. And they always play well this time of year.
Roger, it just feels like this is going to be a rivalry for a long time to come between these two teams. I think they'll meet again, but do you think they're going to meet again in the NCAA tournament?
Well, I'd have to see the bracket, obviously, if it's like last year and they can meet in the semifinals. UConn's an interesting story because you have to base so much of what they do in the non-conference because they just run roughshod over the Big East. But clearly, they're the favorite. But we'll see. Texas beat UCLA. I think they kind of stunned UCLA in Las Vegas. Now, UCLA was a little shorthanded, but so was Texas in that Players Era tournament in Vegas the day before they beat. How about that? They beat UCLA and South Carolina on back-to-back days.
Right.
Back in November on Wednesday and then on Thanksgiving Day. But yeah, it's logical to think there's a great chance Texas and South Carolina will meet, for a fourth time this year, just like they played 4 times last year when Texas and South Carolina played twice in the regular season in conference play. And then, of course, they played in the tournament title game and the Final Four in Tampa.